so many utilities in the road, do they have to get involved? Do they contribute at all, or?
They don't contribute. They have to, the DOT and federal government has what they call a utility accommodation policy that requires them to work with the state through the process of the construction, even to the point of moving their utilities if need be and that kind of stuff. But they will be, particularly on a project like this, they'll be involved early, and it'll be a key part of the way the project gets constructed.
Okay. Anyone else? Oh, Susan?
I'm simply wondering if the road is going to be left in a condition where it's going to be partially resurfaced, or is the project going to be approached similarly as to how Ellsworth was approached, where the entire road gets resurfaced, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So the culvert crosses the road, so so 100 feet, we'll be digging up. However, if there's a potential, if you're 40 feet deep, you might have to go back 8 times that in both directions. Oh. So it's probably going to be about 1,000 feet of road impacted, particularly if they decide to change profiles, those kinds of things. So there'll be a piece of that essentially be completely reconstructed. Because the unstable slopes are an issue too, so all of that entire part of the infrastructure will be rebuilt.
Great. All right, thank you very much, Rob. I will take a vote on Order 17-127. All those in favor of accepting the grant? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you for working on that. Order 17-128, order authorizing the town manager to apply for and accepting, if awarded, a Maine Department of Transportation Planning Partnership Initiative Program grant for Park Street traffic study with matching funds in an amount up to $25,000 to be drawn from downtown and transit-oriented tax increment financing funds. Take a motion, please.
Second.
Thank you. That was long.
Give you a long order so that I can get prepared. I'm Bella Ryder. I'm the assistant town manager. I'm working with Rob Yerksa and Evan Rickard on applying for this grant. A little bit of background on this. Back in November 2016, Council instituted a moratorium on further development in the Park Street corridor. There's been quite a bit of development on the east side of that corridor with new student housing developments and new gas station, new coffee shop. Makes it a little bit more difficult to get in and out of that road. Also, we have a roundabout coming very soon, hopefully. I believe that's also the next order to talk about. But so that is impacting the traffic on that street significantly. And so council put in a moratorium on development until the impacts of the development could be understood. And that includes not just the traffic study, but also types of development that council wishes to encourage, et cetera. This piece, traffic study plans normally go through our municipal planning organization, that's BACS, but they are out of money for planning studies, and particularly on our timeline, we're not likely to get funded through that. The Maine Department of Transportation has a 50-50 plan where they will share 50% of the cost and we will match 50%. We've done similar projects with infrastructure, but this is particularly for planning. So we are going to go ahead, we'd like to go ahead and apply for this grant so that we could get the study done in an appropriate time frame for your moratorium. Goes from the approaches at the Park and College intersection all the way to the Old Town Orono town line. And I think that, unless you guys have questions, I think I have covered the bullets.
Anyone have any questions or
I
comments?
do have a question.
Go ahead.
Because this is sort of before my time, I just want to make sure I'm kind of understanding the reason for having the development moratorium is to complete such a traffic study, see what the impacts are before allowing further development. Yes?
Well, and not just traffic study, you also want to look at the different types of development. That was primarily a more residential area, and you also want to look at what you would like to encourage in that stretch. So it's not just about the traffic, it's also about the makeup of the community and the zone.
I guess I'm just trying to get an idea of the scope, sort of like the big picture of how long this process would take.
The traffic study, which is the piece that we're talking about right now, we're doing kind of a similar one on Stillwater Avenue, and that was about 3 to 5 months, and it would be a similar timeline.
Is that from application to the actual study concluding, or?
So the application is actually a rolling process, so there's no particular deadline, and which also means that there's no waiting for the deadline to pass in order to get the funds. I would say probably you would be looking at least a month, though, between application and getting a consultant on board. And from that, 3 to 5 months is from the point of the consultant coming on board.
And Bill, how do they account for the fact that there's going to be a rotary going in, a roundabout, excuse me, in the same area? How does that figure into this traffic study?
So they have models that they can run that can pretty accurately predict the change of behavior with a roundabout. They did a lot of the studies for that when they designed the roundabout. So we'll be able to use some of that information. That's kind of, that behavior is a little bit already predicted. But it's modeling, it's computer modeling.
Any other questions or comments? No? And I just wanted to add, Megan, it was kind of, it feels like in that area, we're starting to get crunched, and we want to make sure it's properly managed.
Oh, I totally see the logic and wisdom and agree with that. I just wanted to get more of an idea of this, of sort of the scope of all of the looking,
Sure.
and the planning.
Yep, no problem. All right, I will take a vote on Order 17-128. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Moving on to Order 17-129, order authorizing the town manager to execute a municipal state agreement with the Maine Department of Transportation for the construction and maintenance of a roundabout at the intersection of Route 2, Park Street, and Rangeley Road, State Project ID number 22692, and further authorizing the payment of the town shares of $400,000 to be paid from the funds donated by the University of Maine, $200,000 impact fees collected for this purpose, and the remaining funds from the FY 2018 approved capital infrastructure budget. I will take a motion, please.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, thank you. Rob?
Good evening again, Rob Yerxa, Public Works. So anytime that a municipality works with the DOT, particularly when federal funds are associated with the project, one of these municipal state agreements is a necessary part of the process pre-construction, so that the town understands what their responsibilities are going to be financially for the project, but also post-construction, what parts of the infrastructure will the town be responsible for. One of the these type of agreements within an urban compact sometimes can be a bit redundant, so much of the responsibilities that they're asking us to do once the project is completed would have been our responsibility anyway. The mowing, striping, paying for the electric bill for the overhead lights, all the maintenance of the infrastructure is all, would have been our responsibility anyway, since this project is located within the urban compact. As far as the agreement goes, I'm supporting that we approve it. The $400,000 match is a lump sum match. Spoke with the project manager today. And many times, municipal matches are a percentage of the total cost of the project. So if a project is $1 million and you're responsible, they estimate that you're responsible for 100,000 of that million going in. If the project ends up being 985,000, you would pay the percentage, the 10%. In this case, regardless of what the project ends up costing in the end, the town's responsibility is strictly going to be the $400,000 that we were able to negotiate 3 years ago now. The project's actual cost was originally estimated around 1.8, then it went to 2.2, and now it's up to 2.6 million total cost. Most of that recent jump was some small reconfiguring of the pedestrian walkways, and they'll actually be raised pedestrian walkways to make them as visible as possible. They'll have rapid flashing beacons, so they're going to be quite visible no matter what time of year they're in. But also, right-of-way costs turned out to be a little bit more than initially budgeted for, and that's pretty common. But our lump sum negotiation in this case has worked quite well in our favor. So like I said, regardless of the final cost of the project, our match will be $400,000. The project itself is on track. As I said, it's in the right-of-way process right now. That's getting completed. The advertising date is still November of 2017, with a completion date of the fall of 2018. So it'll be a single season project. And much of that is because the university has agreed to work with us in terms of closing Rangeley Road for a period of time over the summer next year, which will allow the contractor to do about 2/3 of the work without even having to interrupt in any significant way traffic flow on Route 2, and it'll allow them to work much quicker without not having to worry about traffic in and out of the Rangeley Road. As it says in your background material, the university's been a great partner in this project, and they continue to be so.
And that closure will just be next summer?
It'll be next summer. What will happen is assuming that the project advertises on time in November, contracts will be done probably in December. They'll award the contract, and then the utilities will begin their work. The contractor may have to do some clearing and preparation and things like that, but then over the winter, utility poles and things like that will be moved. I don't know if the process, though larger in scale, will go, I'm assuming, in similar procession that the Forest Avenue and Stillwater project. They did the same thing. They started the project one season, then over the winter, all the utility poles and everything got placed and moved, and that way the contractor was ready to go when construction season starts. It started again in the following spring.
Any other questions for Rob?
I've got two concerns.
Okay.
One, is just a statement. I do get a little apprehensive in terms of, I like a traffic circle, I think they're a really pleasant way to manage the traffic. But I am a little apprehensive towards pertaining to the volume of traffic that passes, that drives along Park Street, especially considering the traffic that occurs on Stillwater with that circle. You know, in terms of some people just, kind of little too timid approaching those intersections and kind of congests things.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's a good solution. So I do think they're aesthetically pleasing way to manage.
Yep.
My other concern, though, is there going to be a bicycle lane? And if that hasn't been considered, could that be considered?
There will be a bike lane, but also on the south side of the project, you'll notice there's a very large multi-use path that goes all the way from one side of the project to the other. And so experienced bikers will be able to actually go right through the roundabout if that's how they choose to navigate it. But there'll also be that pathway down on the south side to go through. If you don't want to get involved with the traffic, you can use that.
Some urban locations have kind of like safety bumpers, if that makes sense, that actually protect. They're kind of like, I'm not certain what the material is, but it's a safety bumper. They're usually about 3 foot tall, some type of like almost like poles. They're actual physical barriers that prevent a vehicle from colliding with a cyclist. So, something to consider. I think that, or other bike lanes have lighting, reflective treatments and such like that. So if those could be considered to up the safety for the cycling commuters.
Thank you very much, Susan.
I will say that the DOT has been working with the Bike Coalition of Maine through this whole project, so they've done a number of accommodations for that.
Great. Will we have lovely trees in the middle?
I've been told we'll have something in the middle that
Be
disrupts.
something for a visual break, but it's going to be a easy to maintain solution.
Okay. That's what I like to hear. Any other questions or comments? All right, I will take a vote on Order 17-129. All those in favor? Judy? Yep, passes unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Rob. Order 17-130, order authorizing the town manager to execute an agreement to participate in the National League of Cities Service Line Warranty Program. Take a motion, please.
So moved. Second.
And Sophie, or Rob again?
Joe Madigan, I think.
Oh,
I think this is why you stayed here.
I thought he'd just like coming to the meetings.
Joe Madigan, Superintendent of the Water Pollution Control Facility. We're bringing this agreement forward to the council because really we've seen some of our residents have taken quite a hit in the pocket because of having to replace their sewer services. The last one I think was $3,900, and I think the other one we did was around $3,000, and we didn't cross the road. So to replace a sewer service for a home is $3,000 to $5,000 at least. Every time you get in the road, it gets real expensive too. So the National League of Cities is bringing forward an insurance that people can buy. It will cover, you can cover your water line, your sewer line, as well as your internal plumbing. And you can take any portion of that you want, or not. The town puts their name on the advertisement that utility service sends to our residents. And so the town is really behind, is approving of it, which is why you got to approve it. I don't know what else to say.
So this is basically, if this, my house to the sewer line, just ensuring that connection, that whole system.
Right, because,
My property,
yes, because the town only maintains the sewer main, so every sewer service belongs to the homeowner. Even if we've put it in, it belongs to the homeowner.
the tree grows through it or whatever.
Absolutely, and that's a lot of the problem. We got Tree City USA, and so it comes with the trees, goes in the sewer lines.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is a program that many other communities have adopted.
There's like 240 cities across the country.
And in Maine, do we have any?
I don't,
We would be the first, and I think that my name is on the list because when I was the president of MMA, I went to NLC and dropped my card in their box about this.
So I guess my real question is, have we done some research in terms of the level of satisfaction that communities will put their name on this product? Here's my concern. I don't want citizens coming back and saying, you know, we thought we were buying Y and we really got Z, and you had your name on it, Town of Orono, so you're part of our complaint. Am I making any sense?
yes.
Oh, you're making lots of sense. I think I was looking at the fact that the National League of Cities had endorsed this, which is a group that MMA belongs to. It's most towns a couple of towns in Maine belong to it because it's really for larger communities. But I would be happy to randomly call some of the 204. You know, I think we could just pick a couple and just double check, and if those came through okay, then I guess I would ask if this has sat on our desk for a while, and just in the last year we've had the two lines, and with both of them we've had to enter into agreements so the town paid for it, and then our lawyer drafted agreements to, which is allowed under state law, to allow them to repay us. And one of them was a house that we thought we foreclosed on at the time, and so there is a mechanism in the law that lets the town step in to fix so that you're not creating a dangerous situation with the system and then try to get the money from folks. But it was shocking how expensive both of those fixes were. So that's why we've brought it up right now, Tom, and I think you're right. We probably should do a little bit more digging.
I guess I'd be interested in the cost. I'm afraid that some of the folks who would benefit most from this kind of a program might find it more expensive than they'd be willing to.
So the external sewer line warranty, so from the outside of your home to the pipe, costs $7.75 per month or $88 a year. The external water line is $5.75 a month or $64 a year. And in-home plumbing is $9.99 a month or $114.99 a year. As part of the agreement, we would also have to decide the license. So this is kind of like a franchise agreement, much like we do with cable. And for what the town could get back if we chose would be 50 cents per product per month. Or we could waive that, and the charges I just gave you would go down by 50 cents per month. So that would be something we would need to think about if the town wanted if we wanted to do this, if you wanted to see it as an additional revenue source into the WPCF, I don't think it would be a lot of revenue, but I think there might be some, or if you would want to pass that savings along to our residents.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, then were people to purchase this insurance, there would be a higher likelihood that if something were to happen, that a resident would then be insured, and that would kick in instead of us paying up front and hoping that we can get some reimbursement from that down the line. This all sounds great, and the promotional materials included in our packet sound great, but then again, they're also the promotional materials from the company doing the promotion, and our logo and our name. I share Tom's concerns, although on the surface it seems like a smart decision. Maybe a little bit more research about how it's actually working for people before we put our name on it.
Yeah, we like I said, we talked with folks at National League of Cities, which is a city equivalent to MMA for us. But I could easily make a couple of calls, and depending if you wanted us to bring it back later, or I could make a couple of calls, and if everything came out fine and we had good references, move forward. It's whatever you would like.
I for one, am not prepared to vote on this item tonight, and I would like to table it for further discussion at the committee meeting.
I agree.
All right, I think that was a motion and a second. I just had one quick question while you're adding to your things, is how much staff time will this take? Because my thought was with the logo and a letter going out, the first people they're going to call is their local town office. So
Well, we would make sure it was Joe's information that got put on there.
Joe's got enough to do.
I don't foresee a lot. There have been other, not this particular product, but other products that towns have partnered with insurance companies on. And listening to them, I don't think it is a huge amount. And if we decided we wanted to do it, it would be something that I would think would be important enough to devote a little bit of Joe's time. You don't get a ton of calls down at WPCF anyway, right?
No, we don't.
So
you could expect more then.
is this service available that I, as an individual, could procure this without going through all of this? And it says here, no cost or these are highlights. No cost or liability for the city to participate. And I guess I would like to, that's one of the things I'd like to see more detail on, how they can say that we're going to be indemnified from all of this. For me, myself.
Okay.
I'll address it in committee, but if we're not entering into a contract with, it's kind of like cable. We're not providing a service with an individual. Our agreement is with somebody completely different.
Okay. So that's why we're not liable? Okay.
Well, there is a motion and a second to table order 17-130. So I'll take a vote on the table. All those in favor of tabling this? Passes unanimously. So we will table that to the next time. Thanks, Joe, for sticking around for that. Moving on to order 17-131, order authorizing the town manager to purchase 3 EMS monitors and related supplies from Zoll Medical of Chelmsford, Massachusetts, at a cost not to exceed $82,000, with the trade-in of the town's current LifePak EMS monitors, to borrow funds from the First National Bank for this purchase with a tax-exempt loan with a repayment term of up to 4 years and an interest rate of less than 3%, and further to authorize the council chair and town manager treasurer to execute any and all documents necessary to execute said borrowing. Take a motion, please.
Second?
All right. Fire Chief Ewing.
Josh Ewing, standing in for the fire chief, and I'm going to hand this right over to the town manager.
I think you're running backup on this one, right? All right. We have talked about EMS monitors a few times, but for folks that were not able to join us for our budget workshops, the EMS monitors are small pieces of equipment that are in ambulances, and they monitor heart rate, oxygen levels, everything that you can imagine, they monitor. And they are something that we are required to have if we run a paramedic license service. So we run a paramedic license service. We must have a monitor in any response vehicle. So we have 3. We have one for each ambulance that runs and one in the engine. Because we do use the engine to make a first response when both ambulances are out. So the EMS monitors are, as you would imagine, computerized. They need to be recalibrated. They need to be certified. And we have the company come up and certify them once every year. Actually, we send our current ones away to have them certified once every year. Unfortunately, we have a LifePak 12. They're now on LifePak 15s. And they will no longer certify them after September of this year. So last year, in 2017, we wrote a grant to try to get them funded through Homeland Security, and we were not successful. This year, we put it in the budget, but these pieces of equipment are significantly expensive, $15,000 or $40,000 discounted price, sorry, $30,000 a piece. So this year in the budget that you approved, we said we were going to borrow the money and repay it over a period of time. At the departmental level, Chief St. Louis had an accident and kind of stopped. So Josh and I have been riding shepherd over this. We've done a lot of research. There are 2 monitors out on the market right now. There's a LifePak, one made by LifePak and one made by Zoll, Z-O-L-L. We have been using the LifePaks. Our first inclination was to go back to the LifePaks, but when we did the research, what we found is that the LifePak 15 is a repackaging of old technology. The Zoll is a newer technology and gives some of the features that are really important for how we have elected to try to maintain HIPAA, well, not try, we maintain HIPAA compliance. So things like this will automatically upload into all of the data it collects will automatically upload into our cloud-based charting, which should help significantly. There are elements that will allow you to determine, it will tell you how effective your CPR is right now. You do it and you're assuming it's fine. This one actually measures it and gives you green, yellow, and red for not great. It has a temperature sensor so that talking with Captain Luciano, it allows us to do some diagnosing a little bit quicker and more effectively. So when it's nice to know what you'd like, because oftentimes we might like the newest and greatest, but we can't afford it. We went out and we got quotes from Physio Control, who does the LifePak, and that quote came in at, excuse me, $61,000. It was, the problem that we found with this quote is that there were add-ons that we were going to have to buy to meet the same standard. So it brought it up closer to $70,000. We then went back to the Zoll. Originally, they quoted a machine that didn't have one of the add-ons that we're required to have. The second quote came in at $75,845.25. We talked with our EMS providers. We talked with area fire departments, because most everybody had been on the Life Pack, and what we're noticing is people are beginning to shift to the Zoll who are buying new ones. The hospital, EMS services. Then Josh and I went and had lunch with the chief, because he's not allowed to work, but he can have lunch. And the chief is strongly recommending the Zoll. He feels like it is what the department needs. So that's, we're suggesting the Zoll. The reason this is written with up to 82,000, I don't think we'll even come close to that, but I need to make sure I have appropriate levels of authority, and the fire department is still negotiating for some extra things like sensors for the temperature, some extra ones and things like that. So
ballpark of where we will be around?
I think we're probably going to end up in the $78,000-$79,000 range when we have everything in a service contract.
Pretty close to 82.
No, that's not pretty close to 82. That's less than 82. So
Not a math guy.
I called Androscoggin Savings Bank, who we have done leases with in the past, and they quoted what I thought was a very reasonable 3% for 3, 4, or 5 years, to make sure, to see where they keep them honest. I also called the First, and who we have our banking relationship with, and what they have quoted is for a 3-year term, 2.125%, and for a 4 or a 5-year term, 2.2%. So when we look at it, the 3-year will put a payment of $21,000, which is a little bit more than we have this year. But we would put the 19.5 down this year that we have, so we'll only borrow, so you make the loan and then you make an immediate payment. So it just means that for the next 3 years it would be 21. Or you, for 4 years, which is $800 more interest total, it brings your payment down to a little less than $16,000, $15,965.93. So I'm not sure I would want to go for the full 5 years. It doesn't, you're up at $4,000 worth of interest at that point. But I would recommend that we either do the 3 or the 4 year with a payment this year, because we have it appropriated. That was kind of the thought. Have I given everybody enough information?
What's the life span?
So the monitors that we have right now I think are almost 10 years old. So we would expect these to go 10. Where it's newer generation, we might be able to eke out some more time. But at the end of the day, we're at the mercy of these companies whether or not they will certify them, because the Life Pack that we're using today on October 1st is going to be the same Life Pack, but as soon as you operate it without having the certification that it's been calibrated, we are negligent. If anything bad happens, we can't prove that we have done what we were supposed to do.
Anyone else have any questions or
No
comments?
questions, I think we have plenty to go on.
Yeah, my preference to the payment, we've scheduled close enough. It'd be nice to get rid of it in 3 years. There will be other needs in that 4th year, I'm sure.
Yeah. That was kind of the way I was thinking as well. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? All right, I'll take a vote on Order 17-131. All those in favor of the purchase? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Stay right there.
You're welcome.
Okay. Order 17-132, order authorizing the purchase of two 2017 Ford Utility Police Interceptors from Darlings Ford of Bangor in the amount of $62,536 plus $13,519.84 for equipment purchase and setup through Custom Installations LLC of Levant and graphics work done through Graphics Design of Old Town for $1,205. Further authorizing the repurposing of the outgoing cruisers to, flip the page, the Fire Department and Code Enforcement Office at a cost of approximately $5,000 expected for exterior improvement. The total cost is $82,260.84 to be drawn from the FY18 capital equipment budget. We'll take a motion, please.
Second.
Chief Ewing.
Josh Ewing, Police Chief. During the budget process this year, the Town Council approved the purchase of 2 new police cruisers. The bid process went out. The bids that we received, Darlings of Bangor had a low bid of $31,268 each. The equipment that we'll need and the outfitting that'll take place will cost the $13,519.84, and we did a bid process for this as well with Custom Installations of the van, having the low bid and, quite frankly, the higher quality, better service, and better timing. There'll be $5,000, approximately $5,000 for the repurposing of the outgoing cruisers. So one of the cruisers will go to the fire chief, who is in desperate need of a replacement vehicle. And that money would cover any sort of exterior improvements that we need to do to make it a fire chief's vehicle. And the other vehicle would go to code enforcement, the second one that we would process out. The equipment that will be necessary to outfit these cruisers, the new cruisers, because of equipment that'll go with the old ones, will be another rear partition screen, interior lights, the new lights for the fire chief vehicle to change from blue to red, new computer mounts, new consoles, and then a rear compartment storage boxes that lock all the equipment in and keep things secure. And then the graphics, we would go with Graphics Design in Old Town for the stripping of the lettering that's on the cars now, and then the new lettering for the vehicles that are coming in, the new graphics for both the fire department and the police department. And we recommend approval, and I'm certainly willing to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Tom.
Well, actually, probably a question for Sophie. We are going to get rid of 2 vehicles. We're not going to see them around anymore. They're going to be gone, right?
We actually have 3 vehicles slated to be taken away this year. Our plan is to see if Darlings will take.
That was, we attempted today to determine if there'd be any sort of trade-in for the current fire chief's vehicle, and we placed a call and didn't get an answer. We can certainly look into that, and we will. We couldn't turn that around this afternoon.
So our first idea with the chief's vehicle, because there might be some value there, is to see if they'll do it as a trade-in. If they won't, it would join the other 2 in a bid. We'll put them out to bid this summer to be gone.
Great.
Yes, no, not hanging out.
Thank you.
And Josh, I'm just a little confused. So we can't transfer the computer equipment from the older police cruisers to the newer police cruisers?
Right. The newer, there's a couple issues there. We're trying to get some uniformity for the officers in the vehicle, so there's a better mount came out last year that was much more user-friendly, particularly if there was a passenger in the car, so that the officer could rotate the screen and the keyboard independently and be able to work in the cruiser comfortably. And each time there's a newer vehicle, sometimes the consoles that are designed for that vehicle just a year or 2 ago will not support the same moving into that new car. So at the same time that we buy the console, we can upgrade the mount so that they're much more uniform within the vehicle.
And will the fire chief have a computer mount? No?
I don't believe he has a computer in his vehicle.
Will he have one in the new one? No?
No, he won't. No, that'll be removed, and he'll have a new console that will support his radio and his siren box.
Part of the reason that we were a little vague on costs is because we really wanted Rob to come back and be able to design what he needs and what will work for him. But the plan is that we won't just have a hand-me-down police cruiser, but it will be outfitted for a police, fire chief and be appropriately marked as such.
And I think you told us before, there's about 92,000 on those
Both of
mileage.
the cruisers that will be moving into a support role for the fire chief or for the code enforcement are both going to be in the 90,000 range.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? All right, hearing none, I will take and vote on Order 17132. All those in favor? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Unless you want to do the next one, too.
At this point, it could just...
Order 17133, order authorizing the purchase of a 2017 Ram 3500 tradesman pickup truck from Darling's Auto Group of Ellsworth in the amount of $27,755, plus an amount not to exceed $17,000 for plow, truck body, and tailgate to be drawn from the FY18 capital equipment budget. I'll take a motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Rob?
Good evening, Rob Yerxa, Public Works. Yes, this purchase will replace a 2006 GMC pickup truck with well over 100,000 miles that we've been having some mechanical issues with. As you may recall, we had a broken frame on one of our pickups this past winter and ended up purchasing a frame and completing that project, and that truck is back in the fleet. So we're ready to move on from one of our two 2006 trucks that certainly have been bought and paid for. In pursuing the new purchase, we contacted several dealers statewide for in-stock as well as ordered vehicles, received several proposals, and the 2017 Ram 3500 was the lowest one that met our specifications. It'll be the first heavy-duty pickup that we've bought from the Ram brand, but we do have a 2013 that has served us well. That's the truck that I drive. So the additional equipment, the truck itself, the chassis is $27,755. That includes a credit for the removal of the stock truck body, and so that we can put a utility body on this truck. We think this is a good direction to go because these utility bodies will be much more serviceable, much more easy to work with, but also will last longer. And I would anticipate that we could take, when this truck is ready to be replaced, we should be able to take the body off that one and put it on the next one. So I think it's a good direction to go with these types of vehicles. The purchase also includes a plow, a lift gate, and all of the other equipment, road lights, those kinds of things that we need.
Anyone have any questions or comments?
Just to be consistent, the 2006 truck that we now own will be gone?
Yes, that amongst, I have 3 that we need to get rid of now. 6. So we're gonna, yes, it'll be part of the package that when Chief Ewing's ready to go with his.
Great.
Great. Anyone else have any questions? So this is not replacing the one that we just did the...
Correct.
Correct.
No, the one with the new frame is actually doing a nice job for us. I think came out pretty well.
Great. All right, I will take a vote on Order 133, 17133. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Stay right there, Rob. Order 17134, order authorizing the purchase of a 2017 Ferris IS 3200Z zero-turn mowing tractor from Whitmore and Sons of Skowhegan in the amount of $9,465 to be drawn from the FY18 capital equipment budget. Take a motion, please.
Move approval.
Second?
All right. Rob?
That name is Whittemore.
What's that?
The pronunciation of that name is Whittemore.
Whittemore. Okay. Thank you.
You would know.
Yeah, so in preparation for this purchase that we had talked about at budget time, we called several dealers and took two demos from the two that were the lower of the two bids. We were already familiar with the Ferris tractors, having seen them at actually the same trade show that we saw the Wacker-Knudsen improvements at the Skowhegan Highway Conference that we go to every year. Demoed both the John Deere and this, and without telling the operator all the finances, he chose this one as his most comfortable, most effective ride. This has a kind of a unique feature in that it has suspension in the drive wheels. So a zero-turn tractor, the two drive wheels are what you steer with and everything. So if you lose traction in one of those two tires, you can spin out of control, and it's not a good thing. So the suspension allows for better contact and a safer, smoother ride. So I was actually pretty happy to see this as the low bid. I'm interested to see how this tractor will do for us. And we did demo this one as well, and really performed quite well. Yeah, we're demoing it right now.
Rob, what is this used for primarily, and what is the expected life expectancy?
Well, the one we're replacing was purchased in 2008, so I would say another 10 years we would get out of this. This is the primary piece of equipment that mows all the municipal properties. So Webster Park, all the ball fields, all that with the Public Works mowing crew.
I just remember purchasing something similar to this for the cemetery just a few years before we contracted it out, and I was kind of curious what happened to that.
That one, we bought the 2008.
That was the one
was
that
the
we
last
bought?
tractor we bought.
Okay. That was the one that was used, was bought for the cemetery, but then used otherwise?
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions? Tom, do you want to ask what will happen to this?
No. I don't want it. The whole transportation, northern edition, you know.
All right, I'll take a vote on Order 17134. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Order 17135, order assigning $68,750 of undesignated fund balance for the purpose of the assessing data collection project carrying forward into the FY 2018, the balance of any funds remaining from the $45,000 that council authorized to be used for this project in FY 2017. I will take a motion, please.
Second.
All right. Sophie.
So during our budget workshops, we talked about several different ways to reduce the burden of municipal services on the tax rate. And one of those ways that folks agreed to was to take the $53,000 that we had estimated for professional services costs for this coming year, the phase 2 of our data collection process, along with the $15,000 that we had budgeted for some clerical support for the assessing office. And instead of raising and appropriating those funds from taxes, to rather assign a portion of undesignated fund balance for that purpose. And what I'm doing here is also rolling in the carry forward funds that we had established for 17 that we did not fully utilize. So what we will have is a reserve with all of those funds in it that we will draw as needed to complete the project.
Go ahead.
And our budget, excuse me, our budget reflected this agreement.
Yes. Any other questions or comments? No, hearing none, I'll take an vote on Order 17-135. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Yep, so I'm sorry. Sure. Okay.
That mentioned data collection. That's kind of vague. What type of data collection? Is it like statistics about the population?
No, it's collecting data about people's homes so that we can
Okay, recall
find
that's fine.
equity when ensure equity when we're valuing them.
Thank you. Order 17-136, order authorizing the purchase of a 2017 Wacker-Neuson WL32 mini wheel loader from Central Equipment Company of Stillwater in the amount of $71,499 to be drawn from the FY18 capital equipment budget. Take a motion, please.
Second?
Rob?
Yes, so as part of our capital plan, we included some improvements to our sidewalk machine fleet. The machine that this will be working or essentially replacing on the sidewalks is a 1985 holder that is been our primary sidewalk machine for many, many years. There was some concern about replacing the holder with a whacker because it would be not as productive and not as efficient. But recent improvements in the snow blower mechanism on the new WL32 really sort of set those concerns aside for me. It will not be as productive and efficient as a brand new holder would be, but it certainly won't be a significant drop-off in service level between the two machines. It's a far more industrial snow blower than the one we have on our current WL32. The WL32, which is the newer version of this, is a bit larger, a little more horsepower, and a lot more hydraulic pressure, which is really what drives this snow blower. So delivery on this, if we order it now, is going to be pushing the end of October, so it was important to get this moving.
Any questions or comments?
Well, the other thing you didn't mention about the difference between the holder and the Wacker-Neuson is that the one we're purchasing is much cheaper than the holder, new.
Yes, a new holder would be in the $250,000 range. This is a $71,000 piece of equipment, so we could buy 3 of them.
And there's more versatility with this too, right, with the whacker?
Well, one thing that the holder has its place, but for a municipality of our size, having a piece of equipment that can do multiple things is important, and this can do that. We use the WL30 that we have now all 4 seasons. I mean, we basically use it every single day for something, and I would anticipate the same level of use for the new one.
I was very happy to just hear Wacker-Neuson a few more times. That was an exciting part since
Did it for
our
you.
last time, or what were we calling it at the committee meeting, Wackerdoodle or whatever. I also I was going to highlight what Tom said. It cuts our costs dramatically based on what we were doing in the budget scheme, and so that's a wonderful thing. And I also, assuming that we approve this order, if my math is correct, sometimes it's not because I'm not a numbers person, but if my math is correct, it seems like, with the pieces of equipment up for review tonight, we're coming in somewhere around $13,000 under budget, which is, I just want to highlight that because we did just come out of budget talks. And I want to draw a line under the fact that our staff is thoughtful and efficient when it comes to allocating and making use of funds. And so I just want to point out that's a great job.
Great. Anyone else? Questions, comments?
Just one more. Are we going to keep the order?
We are for now. Right now, it's running quite well. It had a good winter and was invaluable actually during during Orson. We used it to widen a lot of the roads. But until it doesn't make any sense to simply cast it aside. But for now, we'll keep it.
No, I think it makes sense.
Fewer hours, we should be able to extend its life a little bit. But any major mechanical failures, we wouldn't replace them.
Someday it will go to the Holder Farm upstate.
Yeah.
Museum, maybe.
Or museum, perhaps.
All right, I will take a vote on Order 17-136. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
We've got one more agenda item to add, Order 17-137, order confirming the contract of Robert St. Louis Jr. as the fire chief for the town of Orono effective July 1st, 2017 to June 30th, 2020. I'll take a motion, please.
Second.
Sophie, you want to say anything?
So all the rest were on consent because everybody else was here. We had some logistical issues getting the contract to and fro for Rob to sign. It came in today, which is why it is not on consent like everybody else. But I'd like to try to keep them all in one place. It's easier for Nancy when I beg for these items.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll take a vote on Order 17-137. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Future agenda items and items of concern. Sam? Tom?
An item for the future. We talked about whether the amount of undesignated, unrestricted reserve included schools and some other things, and whether we might want to at some point take a look at that and see if the figure we're currently using is the best figure. So I just don't want to lose track of that. Not an emergency, not something that has to happen right away.
My thought, Tom, is I have slated to come back to you the internal controls manual, which we slide almost all of our policies in, and my recollection is that the fund balance policy is in that. So we can do that hopefully this fall.
Great.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Judy? Megan? Sophie?
Can I get a sense from council? I've got a group of people who would like council to consider recognizing, instead of Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day. Could I get a sense of how council might like to address that? My thought had been to go to committee and then to council. The issue is that if we do that and we don't have an August meeting, that would mean you would be faced with making a decision in September, which wouldn't give you time to reconsider it, which is because it would be beyond Columbus Day that you would meet again. So I'm kind of curious how you'd like to approach this one.
I would support it.
I'm certainly willing to discuss it. I'm going to have to be convinced on it, though. I'm not sure it makes sense for us to be doing something different than every other community in the state, in every state office.
I wouldn't say it's every, but we could certainly discuss it.
I would also, I don't think that we would be the only community. I don't want to speak on that because I'm not 100% sure, but I thought it had been happening in other communities. I would like to discuss it, and I do sort of support that in theory.
Would folks,
Tom, Judy? Want to think about it?
Yes, definitely discuss it. It came out of the blue, so I have to think about this a bit.
I kind of feel the same way.
So in asking you, well, it's nice to know how you feel. That wasn't what I was aiming for. I think what I was thinking about was, initially, my thought would be to come to council with a draft proclamation and do it as a proclamation, because the only other mechanism you would have would be, I think, to go in and change our personnel policies and call it Indigenous Peoples' Day instead of Columbus Day, which is recognized. And that would take time for public hearings and notice and things like that. And I want to be respectful of the community members that have brought this up, but if that's kind of the forum that you would be okay with, at least for this year, and then if we wanted to do something more permanent, you could do something more permanent after that. It's my thought. Okay.
Works for me.
So, coming up, Nancy has calendared in her magic calendar when we'll be talking about this, the 24th. So, can have your thoughts together.
I just want to point out to councilors that our next meeting is Monday, the 17th at 6. We do not, if anyone thinks we had a Thursday meeting, we do not. Comp plan meeting, next meeting is July 27th.
I'm going to work with Evan to try to pick out some more comp plan dates, because you continue to work through this, but his schedule is changing a bit with his newly defined role. And I also just want to let council know that our new planner will be here on Wednesday for a visit, so if you come to the planning board meeting, you could meet her. But hopefully I'll have a signed contract by then.
Name again?
That's not a good sign.
She doesn't have a signed contract yet.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember.
All right, we're moving on to public petitions. We don't have any public comments. Do we have some?
I'll make this quick, hopefully. So as much as people might think I've cried wolf about bears in the past, people might have noticed recent headlines where the state of Maine is hosting a professional runner from Africa, and during one of its morning training runs at Lake Auburn, he had a bear encounter with 2 bears. So it does happen, my point. And so just as a public announcement, I've watched lots of interviews with people who have experienced bear attacks. I've read numerous reports, and I also started looking up on kind of like the behavioral habits of bears. So most likely if a person's going to encounter a bear, one thing that's been consistent, early morning, so like around sunrise until the day starts warming up. I also recently read they tend to be active at night as well, which I was kind of a little alarmed to hear of, because I tend to be a night runner myself. Now I'm spacing all this. And I bring this up simply to remind that this vicinity, meaning this vicinity in terms of along the Stillwater Trail, not as much of a concern, though I'd say also those exploring on the bog walk. A few years ago there was a bear den that was located at Stillwater and Forest, I believe, and that was a mama bear with, I think it was 3 cubs. It was a lot. They got trapped and a couple died in car accidents. So there has been bear activity in the vicinity, no local maulings from what I've heard, though it's something to be concerned of. So going out on the trails, just consider, what would you do if you encountered a bear? Maybe carry some bear mace, just have an idea of what you might do. I thought that, such as it's usually make yourself look big is one, wave your arms, avoid panicking, and win. My other word of advice also, it's not a good idea to travel along trails alone. That's not advised. Companion yourself with 1 or more people. at least. And I'd say, considering the habits of bears, if you're going to go into the woods, it's probably a safer time during daylight hours, warmer hours of the day.
Thank you very much, Susan, for our PSA. I will take a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
All right, all those in favor? Have a good July.
Do you have anything to sign?